Peace to all of the kings and queens that's out there. This is your brother, the 13th letter to the cipher, and we are back today on the People's Day. That's right. This is the People's Day. This is the People's Show. And first and foremost, I want to thank you all for tuning in and watching the #1 informative show in the Midwest. That's right. There are others, and this is one of them. But I tell you what, by the time you leave the show, you will have some critical thinking to do about self, about God, about church, and about having no businesses. Getting right down to the meat of this conversation, you all, because I have like maybe 4 or 5 videos that I have to put up later today. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. Gratitude. I tip my hat to you. And most importantly, I want to thank all of those who continue to encourage me to continue doing what I'm doing. School is great. Students are learning some things. In fact, there are some non-students that are even learning more than the students are, seeing that the setting is different, so to say. But, you know, I was talking to Reverend Porkchop the other day, and he just happens to be talking about, you know, God, you know. So I had posed a question to Reverend Porkchop: is God man or woman? Now, according to the Bible, that Son book, it says that God is man. It says that God is man and man is God. But after messing around with the concept of God, there's no way possible that I can see God as being a man. And Reverend Porkchop had to say why. And I just threw it in on him. I say, do you know how many men on this planet has ED, erectile dysfunction? I had to spin him off another way. If God was a man, why would he allow man to go through erectile dysfunction? Crazy. If God is a man, there's no way that man should have erectile dysfunctions. I'm just saying. See, women, on the other hand, they don't have that problem about getting it up, worried about getting it up, worried about keeping it up. The only thing they have to do is welcome you into their pyramid. Interesting. That surprised him in a way. He never looked at it that way. And many of you have probably never looked at it that way either. But that's just coming from a different spectrum. You see, God was man. Man would not be in the condition that he's in. And I'm talking about, you know, now you have some people who say that God is the original hermaphrodite. You see, some even speculate that God has the original God, which nobody knows about. So don't let anybody tell you about the creator in regard to the origin of the creator, because no one knows. And if God is a man, where is the man's womb? Where is the man's womb? Where is the man's ability to bear children? Where is man's ability to reproduce himself besides the sperm that needs to egg? You can jag off and still can't make a baby, but you need that goddess, the woman, Mother Nature, to create any form of life. Any form of life. Without woman, you have no life. That's why it's called Mother Nature versus Father Nature. That's because we live in a patriarchal society versus a matriarchal, which Black people were accustomed to before they were beat across the head, stripped of their language, knowledge, God, spirituality. Before all of that took place, we worship the woman. The woman gives birth from the womb of her black hole. In fact, one of the master teachers said that it is the womb is triple darkness. That's right. Triple darkness. Triple darkness inside you that no one can see. But man does not have a womb except for the womb of his mind. Have you ever seen a man pregnant? I'm just saying. And speaking of God, I even went on further to Reverend Porkchop about how you have all of these mega churches, these humongous churches, Creflo Dollar, TD Jakes, he had some sexual misconduct with males, homosexuals, homosexuality, Porkchop, Bishop Porkchop, homosexual. I'm just saying. If God is man, why is it a lot of men who go to church, they end up being, you know, as Fred Sanford would say, sugar in the booty? Think about that. Think about your male choir directors. Think about your male church organ players. Think about all of those males that you see in church that you know are homosexuals. Even when I was in church, that's right, I was raised in a Baptist church. And what did I learn in the Baptist church? I learned that by the age of 15, that shit was not real. It's all fake. That God that they was teaching me about in church, not real, is actually fake. In fact, I got kicked out of a church, which was one of my uncle's churches, because I said, woe be unto the pastor that leads my flock astray in the middle of his sermon. And they just politely came to the aisle that I was in, one of the ushers, and, waved a hand like that, like, let me help you this way. Okay. And I proceeded downstairs. Yeah, I was fucking up his money because he was fucking up the minds of the people. While all along, he's talking about God. God is not a robber. Is God a robber? Does God need your money? Really? Does the Creator need your money? In fact, you have to ask yourself, who created the money? Because from my research, gold, natural resources was the money and still is the money today. That is why they offer you money for your gold. But anyway, back to the mega churches. You have presidents, whether you have political parties, Democrats, Republicans, have been seeing Black pastors, Black ministers who run churches. Why? To continue to brainwash them. The same way that the rap industry and media spends billions of dollars to give you a negative image of Black men and women, presidents, political parties, political figures give you they invest also billions of dollars into keeping you dumb. And churches are designed to keep you dumb. And they receive tax credits, 501c3 status, don't have to pay any taxes as long as they continue to keep you dumb. As long as they continue to keep you blind and looking up in the air while they're robbing everything and stealing everything right here on this earth, while they tell you that you will receive your riches after you die. Yet they get all of their riches while they live, and you are sitting here eating a ramen noodle. I'm saying. Now, if you look at those that were in the Sun Book, the Bible, the King James Version, excuse me, Queen James, because he was a homosexual, and I battle anybody on that. Anybody. In fact, if you haven't studied King James, his history versus just the Bible, don't even step to me about Queen James until you do some research. And once you find out that not only was he a homosexual, he practiced witchcraft. He practiced Satanism. Your Queen James, you know. I'm just saying, but getting back to these churches are designed to keep you dumb. These churches are designed to give you a concept of hope in a hopeless world. They are designed to give you a concept of a false reality. Not only a false reality, but a false deity. In fact, if you go to the book of Genesis, and once you read that which God has created and the days in which he created it, you will find that that God is dumb as fuck. You will, because it speaks about him creating everything on the planet, herbs, trees, before he creates the sun. Don't sit well with me, because nothing has life without the sun. Nothing has life without the sun. But anyway, these mega churches are continuously programming you to worship some deity that don't exist. Gave yesterday, and that includes some of my family members too. I got mad haters in my family for that which I speak on in regard to their Jesus, and they don't even know who Jesus is. In fact, according to historians, if they really research, that Jesus never really existed. They don't even have a tomb for the man. He was the greatest image in the Bible, yet he don't even have a tomb. You can't find a tomb for any of the prophets. None of them. The only thing you have is a King Solomon's temple, but you don't have any prophet, including Jesus himself, that doesn't even have a tomb. All of these people whom are superstars, actors, they go over to the Jews' Wailing Wall. And that is a part of the occult. But we won't get into that. That'll be a next segment, another segment. But while you have all of these churches and they are duping you, ever looked at how every block that you go through in the hood, where there's a concentrated number of black people, and they have all of these churches on the corner, yet they have a liquor store on that same corner, and that's the only black-owned business that you see is the church, because the Arabs got the liquor stores. Every now and then you will see a liquor store that is seldomly owned by black people. Liquor, and church. What do they both do? If you get hooked on liquor, well, you're bound to be doomed as well. Just as doomed as you are if you continue to consume that garbage that they teach you in church. They say that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, and that is true, because they don't read that which they say that they believe in. And see, there's a difference between believing and knowing. Knowing. Knowing and believing is two different things, because when you believe, you actually believe a L-I-E versus T-R-U-T-H. Think about that. Believe comes from belie. I'm just saying. If you haven't figured that out, you need to do some research in etymology, which is a study of words. But why we have no businesses in the Black community? It's not that we don't have the money to, because we donate $1 trillion into this economy that don't care how we live or where we live. And as I told you continuously in other videos, by 2053, it is projected by white economists that Black people won't even have a job or a place to stay by 2053, but you still talking about Jesus. People getting killed on the corners every day. Women are getting killed. Women who are activists for the benefit and the upliftment for Black people are being killed by young Black men. But you talk about your Jesus. You got young males on the corners with no role model except that which he see roll through the neighborhood going boom, boom, boom. 22-inch rims, flashy cash, hoes and tricks. That's their Jesus. That's their existence. And that's what we fail to teach them how not to be like. Because the streets does a poor job in making young Black men real Black men. In fact, the streets makes them criminals, homosexuals, dope fiends, lunatics, whoremongers, beasts in human form. They will even kill themselves. They will even kill themselves before they help themselves. But that's what the Black church teaches you. Because it teaches you nothing of yourself. It teaches you the history of somebody else. It teaches you that the chosen people are someone else. Have you really looked at that, Black church members? That your King James, Baptist, Pentecostal, Episcopalian, Catholic teaches you how you are not the chosen one. But yet, you believe that God has no prejudices. There are so many contradictions in that Bible and in the mega churches. I would have to really question one's intelligence on that which they profess that they are, especially if they're Christian. And that goes for Muslims too, because they brainwashed too. That's another lesson. Maybe later on in this, I'll get into it. I have no notes coming straight from the top of my head. But why are there no businesses? You think about that. And like I said, the only business that you have is a liquor store and the churches. Everything else is dilapidated. Dilapidated. Boarded up. But yet, you say that you are conscious. You say that you are a college graduate. You say that you are educated, yet don't have sense enough, common sense, to pool your resources together to open up businesses for yourself. Think about it. Who clothed you? Where do you buy your clothing from? Where do you buy your shoes from? Where do you buy any of your basics of life that you need to live? Where do you buy them at, and who do you buy them from? Do you know anything about making tissue anything about making shoestrings, anything about making diapers, anything about making clothes. You look at all of these entertainers and athletes whom they market and say, well, we're making this, we're making that. Kanye gym shoes, or Jay-Z gym shoes, or what's the guy name? Stephen Curry gym shoes, or Kyrie Irving gym shoes. They don't make those shoes. A company makes those shoes for them. And you, with your foolish self, go out there and spend hundreds of dollars on these shoes and give money to people, as I've always stated, who don't care about you. Who don't care about you. When you go into the Arab store, Habib, who's selling you crack and heroin in a can, and you say, man, I'm 5 cents short, I'm 10 cents short. He's going to let you slide with it because he wants you to keep coming back. And he's not worried about that nickel or that dime because he made enough to send his children to college, made enough to pay for his home, made enough to ride around in that nice, luxurious car and have a big, fat bank account that you provided for him versus providing it for yourself. Churches in our community has kept us blind from economics. Churches in Black communities has kept Black people blind to economics, to self-improvement, has kept us blind to build for ourselves, while we, with our foolish self, give our resources to others so that they can continue to build while we still stay in apartments. All of these people that you give your money to has homes. Homes. Nice, luxurious homes. In fact, if you think I'm lying, the next time you go to Habib's store, wait till Habib close, okay? And then follow Habib to where he stays at. Get in your car or band up with a few other people and carpool, 3 or 4 cars behind Habib. And you can see how Habib lives. But you don't live like that because you're not thinking like that. You say that, as I stated, you got these, oh, I've graduated from Yale, I've graduated from Harvard, Princeton, and Spelman. I'm going to Spelman College, or I'm going to Morehouse. What businesses do you have? What economic intelligence do you have to build for yourself, to build for your children? These very same people that I'm speaking to you about have something to leave for their children, while you, who are living in the apartment in the slums of America, have nothing to leave your children, barely have enough to feed them food, barely enough to pay your rent, your lights, your gas, your phone, your cable, and please don't have a car note. It's over with. But you believe in Jesus. But you continuously believe in the TD Jakes and the Creflo Dollar. You believe in that. And they give these churches and these ministers millions of dollars to keep you stupid. Just like the rap industry spend billions of dollars creating negative images of Black men and Black women. Think about that. What do you see the sisters do in videos? You see them shaking their ass. You see them twerking. You see them sliding up and down poles. No economic sense. No brain sense, just body movement. And they're the best at it, but don't have a brain to create a legal business for themselves versus selling their bodies. When you go online and you go on all of these social medias, you see these women, come talk to me, let's have phone sex. Or they send you all of these photos and you don't even know these people. Accept me as your friend. For what? So that I can become the next trick? I understand that prostitution has been here from the beginning of time, same as sexual human trafficking. That's another joint I get into later. But if selling your body is the only business that you have, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Because while you're selling your body, you open yourself up to a whole lot of things that you don't want. AIDS, gonorrhea, BD, chancroids, syphilis, and so forth. But that's what you open yourself up to. And how long does that last? How long does that last? You may work at a strip club. Think about that. Have you ever been to a strip club? That's another business that you see in Black communities. Strip club. Every business that you see in the Black community is actually a business of death. Except the local mom and pop stores that you have, whom are working and striving to survive in the economic horror that Black people don't believe that they're in. You think about that. Churches, liquor stores, and strip clubs. Do Black people own any other thing? Or in a barbershop, maybe. Maybe a barbershop. That's it. That's it. Not even a liquor store do you own. You may find one here and one there, but they're very rare because Habib got it sold up. In fact, do you know how long this has been going on? Do you know how long Habib had been living off the backs of Black people? Long before the white man. In fact, your first enslaver was the Arab. Duh. That's right. While people focus on the white man as being their first enslaver and their worst enemy, they tend to forget about or have not come into the knowledge of that the Arabs put them in slavery and has lived off their backs from the very beginning. Before the white man was even around to enslave you. This guy came in 725 AD, and the white man came in 1555. That's like an 800-year gap. And even now today in the Mideast, that Arab whom you call your brother is still enslaving your ass over in the East. But you still say, I'm a Muslim. Now, granted, I was in the Nation of Islam, which is another form of church. They just call it a mosque. But it's a church, just like the Jews called their church the synagogue of Satan. And what do they all do? Their job is the same, to keep you blind, deaf, and dumb, not to mention divided, and to keep you poor while they continue to get rich. Has anybody seen a broke reverend? Has anybody seen a broke rabbi? Has anybody seen a broke imam? Huh? That actually runs the joint? Are any of them broke? Are any of them broke? But they do. They ask you for your money, and you, with your foolish self, give it to them. Why? Because you have a lack of knowledge. You haven't even studied that which they are teaching you. Because if you did, you would have common sense to shut that business down. And church is a billion-dollar business. Every year, every day. You think about that. And the church and the mosque and the synagogues always need something. They always need something. They have a building fund. A building fund or a bus fund. On top of your normal tithes that you pay. It is even written in that book, in all three books, the Quran, the Bible, and the Torah, how you must give your money, 10% of your money to that establishment. When you got people out there on the streets, homeless, people on the street, hungry, kids out there hungry. But you'll give it to the Reverend Pork Chop. You'll give it to the slick rabbi. You'll give it to the slick imam. But you say that you are a believer and a follower of this whatever figure that you represent or claim to represent, but you won't feed the people in the street. You think about that. We have no businesses. None. None. You even got people like Dr. Boyce Watkins, who's consistently out there giving up information on how to build. Dr. Claude Anderson continuously out here giving you information on how to build or what to do. Yet you still ask, what do we do? Like I said, others have come. Dr. John Henry Clark told you what to do. Elijah Muhammad told you what to do. Dr. Ben Johanan told you what to do. Mother Frances Cress Welsing told you what to do. Even Cornel West, I would have to say, who is a fan of, what's that white guy name that is running for president? What's the name? Start with the B, Barney Barnes. You know who I'm talking about. He's a fan of his, yet Cornel West tells you what to do, but you don't do it. You don't do it. So how long will Black people continue to stay dumb? How long will Black people continue to stay unfocused and distracted by the Jesus and the Allah and the Jehovah that don't exist? I highly recommend that Black people do some research in real history before they even get off into religion, because religion is just their story. You don't even, if you can't find yourself and that which you are studying, you need to study something else that you can see yourself in and that benefits you as a whole, benefits you as an individual, that will allow you to imbue others on the knowledge of self and the importance of having one's own economic system in one's own neighborhood or community. Even if you look at where you stay, Black people, you don't own that. You don't own that. You're just a guest there until you can't pay anymore. I don't understand why 20 families, let's say if you go through a block, from 4800 to 4900, how many houses do you have on both sides of that block? Maybe 50, about 50, 60 houses, and nobody out of those 60 real nice families who go to work every day, pool their resources together to buy that store on the corner, to buy the property, buildings where you stay in your community, can actually buy that and own it. That's not the case. That's not the case. I even see homes. You can buy a lot for $1. Only thing you have to do is build on it. You can buy a lot from the city for $1, Chicago. But you have to build on it. But we can't build because we too distracted by Jesus and the latest rap song on the Urban Garbage Box. We can't get past to get off the drugs. We can't get past to get off the heroin, to get off the crack. We can't get past that. We can't get past to get off the pills. We can't get past to get off the lean. And these are the images that they continue to show you on TV about yourself. And you wonder why you are in your condition. Even with church, they continue to show you some Jesus. Or they talk about some Allah or some Jehovah, when if you reverse that which they teach you, then you can build. They even said that somewhere in Genesis, it speaks about how Satan was talking to Adam and Eve, and Satan told, the slippery, slinky snake dude told Adam and Eve that God does not want you to eat from that tree because you would be like him. The devil wasn't lying. Satan was not lying. He actually told you the truth. Because in order for the God that's in those books, in order for that God to teach you about good and evil, he himself had to experience that good and evil. So the devil did not lie. But which route would you take? And it's all a bunch of contradictions anyway. If you got free will, why, when I get in this particular school of thought, I have to follow these rules and practices to be this or to be that? If I got free will, you lose all of your free will and give all of your power away once you accept that. That's why we have no businesses. Granted, black men, including some of my relatives, have lived pretty well off the Jesus lie, has lived pretty well off the God lie. And the reason that they have lived well is because you have been trained to think that way by your former slave masters. To think that way, to believe in a Jesus. In fact, you were brought over here on a ship named Jesus. For those of us who were brought over here, because some of us were already here. This planet has a square mileage of 196,940,000 square miles, and we have investigated all of it before even the European appeared. Came and took your teachings that you taught him in Kemet. While they were in Greece, they came to be taught by you and then took that, flipped it, and gave it back to you. And you don't see it because you don't study and you believe in some Jesus coming to save you. In fact, Jesus didn't even want to save you. Look, Jesus was against all of that. Jesus even said, hey, man, would you take this cup away from me? I really don't want to do this. That's in the book of Matthew. I believe it's chapter 20, 24, or chapter 26. Chapter 24, verse 26, or chapter 26. It's one of the two, and you will have to do that for yourself. But it's in the book of Matthew, chapter 24, or in chapter 26. In fact, it's through all of the Gospels when Jesus himself said, man, I don't want to do this. Will you take this cup from me? Will you take this sacrifice that I'm about to perform can you take this away from me? But even in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 24, verse 16, tells you that can never take place. Jesus could have never died for you. No one dies for you except you die for yourself. Or you choose of your own free will to lay down your life for another individual. That wasn't a requirement of Jesus to do. His only requirement was to teach you, wasn't to die for you. So you check that out. If you check out Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 16, and then you go to the book of Matthew chapter 24, verse 26, or Matthew 26, or anywhere in the gospel right before Jesus is being crucified, it'll tell you that he didn't want to do it. And two, it'll tell you that cannot even exist. It can't exist. So how long are you going to stay dumb? How long are you going to stay blind? How long are you going to stay deaf? How long are you not going to open your ears, open your eyes, and see for yourself that all of this is a mad joke on Black people? I can't speak for white America and what they do in their white churches. I can't speak for them because that's their theology. That's what keeps them thriving. But it keeps Black people in a very detriment condition that you will never find your way out of if you continue to follow these mega preachers. And they don't even have to be a mega preacher. They can be a small-time storefront church. But I tell you what, that small-time storefront church where you got that black pork chop reverend, he not riding the bus to come see you. I bet he's not eating ramen noodles. I bet he's just not eating pinto bread and cornbread, pinto beans and cornbread. He's having a full entree from your pockets, from your hard work. I just look at all of the money that Black people have invested in churches. If they would invest that money in their children and in their businesses and shut down the churches, we can turn this thing around. But Black people not going to do that. Maladjusted, brainwashed. While you see others growing, building, investing, leaving something for their children. I'm going to tell you something. True story. Jesus versus business. I had came home with 50 grand to put down on a building. I had a government voucher from the government to put down on a business or building. And do you know I could not get no family member to invest in a building with me? But they would rather pay rent than to own. That to me shows your level of intelligence. I'm just saying. You would rather pay someone else rent versus investing in your own property. where you can have equity that you could possibly liquidate if needed to be. But you don't have anything to liquidate. You have no equity. And the property that is in the community that Black people may own, the value of that is so down because of how we live. And we wonder why other communities are striving. That's because when you go in the India neighborhood in Chicago, you don't see them out there selling drugs, talking about my hoe, my bitch, rocks, blows, ecstasy. You don't see that shit. You don't see that in Chinatown in Chicago. You don't see that in the Polish community in Chicago. You don't see that in the Arab community in Chicago. You only see that in the Black communities and the poor mixed neighborhoods. But you still got a church there. And I guarantee you got more dope fiends, more crack sellers, more crack smokers than you do people who are actually in the church that's trying to build something for Black people. You think about that. Aren't you tired of being dumb? Aren't you tired of being stupid? Aren't you tired of believing in death? This man died on a cross. The cross represents death. The Romans used that cross. The Romans used that cross to hang people on. And you say with your foolish self that your Lord and Savior died on the cross. Well, how could a Lord and Savior die on a cross if he's your Savior? If he couldn't save himself, if he could not save himself, how is he going to save you? But you don't think about that because you think he rose up from the dead like a ghost out some tomb that you can't even see. You can go all over in Jerusalem and you don't see a Jesus tomb. Looks like to me that the Wailing Wall of the Jews and the Temple of Solomon is more are honored more higher than this guy Jesus, because you can't even find a tomb of his. You can't find Mary's tomb. You can't find Joseph's tomb, and these are his parents. None. You can't even find the tomb of Moses. So you figure that one out. It is very important for us to build businesses. And yes, sometimes we have to start small, but there are times when we could pool that money together and make something large. Don't you want to leave something to your children? You can't leave your children a job. You can't leave your children food stamps. You can't leave your children unemployment or an unemployment check. You can't leave that to your child. How many of you right now have a car to leave to your child or leave a bank account to your child? Leave some type of property to your child or children, whereas they won't have to go through what you went through. In fact, it has gotten so bad that many don't care if they don't leave their children anything because they're so strung out on drugs. They're strung out on that heroin. They're strung out on that crack, popping pills. Yeah. Now, according to my research, the drug industry is a $34 billion a year industry. 34 billion drugs. Okay. Now just think if half of the black people in America got off drugs and decided to open up a business or businesses, what would your life look like? What would your life look like? What would your life be like for your children? And what type of respect would you have made for yourself as a people? Because they don't look at us as individuals, they look at us as a whole. And they market that whole. They market that whole in negative images and spend billions of dollars doing it so that you can be negative and look stupid and be stupid. That's what the churches is designed for. In fact, all of the years that I've been going to churches from age 1 to 16, never did I hear any pastor or any of my uncles talk about how you are supposed to treat your woman. I'm talking about in the church. In the mosque, that's a different thing. Because Elijah Muhammad said, you have to elevate your woman. A nation can rise no higher than their woman. Never heard anything like that in church. But like I said, there's flaws in Islam just as there is in Christianity and Judaism, because all of them are owned by the Jew. And you wonder why you don't have any businesses. You wonder why everyone else's community is thriving while yours is going down the tubes. In fact, white folks are buying up businesses and property in your community so that it can be gentrified to move your black ass out. And you have no place to go. You have no place to go. That same money that you spend buying crack and heroin, just think if you got 50 crack users, think about the money they can have together in a year or 6 months. Look at what that can do. But they're not doing that. They are not doing that. And I want to thank you, Brother Michael Perry. Thank you. Thank you for viewing, brother. I really appreciate that. I know you haven't seen me in a while, but I've been busy working with students and trying to build my life and do what I need to do so that I can be some type of example for the youth. Because just from my standpoint and from the evidence that is clearly seen here in the streets of America, Black people have failed their children. Black people say, I raised you the best way I could. No, you didn't, because you was believing in some fucking Jesus. Just think of all of the money that your grandparents and that your parents give to the preacher man every week for 20 years. What could you and your family have done with that money? Do Black families even talk about having businesses for themselves? I mean, a family unit where you have the mother, the father, the sister, the brother. Do they sit down at a table and talk about, let's open up this business, son? Let's open up this business, daughter. Let's open up this business, wifey. No. They want to go slave. We're all slaves at this moment. We're all slaves. We're slaves to technology. We're slaves to bills. We're slaves to bills. Even education, a slave to education. And by the time you finish graduating from college, you have a big that you have to pay. or you can't get no more income taxes. And it goes on your credit report. So you still have nothing. Did you know that most millionaires never even went to college? Most millionaires never even went to college, black people. I'm just saying. Do your math on that. Like I said, I got about 4 more other videos that I got to get off into. And man, I didn't know that I was talking 55 minutes. Damn. Okay. But with that, you all, I'm going to give you the deuces. And I want you to do some critical thinking on why there are no businesses and a whole lot of churches and a whole lot of liquor stores and strip clubs. But there's nothing for your children. Nothing for you. But you say you have sense. And just from my standpoint and from the viewpoint from other people of the world, you have no common sense. What's the first law of man? Self-preservation. Are black people as a whole preserving themselves, or are they killing themselves? You think about that. If there's anything that I've said that you like, by all means, press the subscribe button, press that subscribe button, press that subscribe button, press that alert button. Okay? Hit that notification button. I'm still here, out here. I haven't quit. Anywhere, I've just been busy. And it takes time to get material together. But for this one here, I just came straight from the dome. But I got about 4 more to do today. So if you've missed this one, you got 4 more to go. And by all means, stay away from the po-po. Don't drink and drive. Don't smoke weed while you driving your car. And have some love, peace, and respect for yourself so that you can be someone and be an example to your seeds. It's the 13th letter to the cipher, you all.